I can't support Roe if he's going to be this transparently cynical in his efforts to not upset the people who are going to call him pro-Hamas anyway. He did this on a San stream, too. We should talk about that Ro Khanna interview. Ro Khanna is almost certainly making a presidential bid, and lately AOC has been signaling that she wants to as well, which I think is interesting because it makes sense to me that she would run for Senate first, but I guess in fairness, after she's completed 6 years of a Senate term, the country's not going to exist anymore anyway. If you want to be president of the United States of America, you should do it soon. You should do it quickly. I understand we're not exactly tremendous fans of Ryan Grimm here, but journalists are journalists, even if they occasionally engage in rape apologia. You know, we watch CNN, and I'm not exactly a huge fan of Jake Tapper. Let's take a look at this. Apparently, Ro Khanna was equivocating over support for Israel.
Who have been deeply concerned about the apartheid state of Israel, the genocide in Gaza, find it refreshing to hear a member of Congress speak in this way, and the fact that you also have used this opportunity to try to highlight specific cases of Palestinians. I want to ask you, though, what you think the consequences for Israel should be, not just of these actions, but also for the mass murder of documented roughly 80,000 people. It's probably much higher than that in Gaza, a significant portion of whom are children. I've heard you talk about sanctioning individuals. I've heard the framing that you and Bernie Sanders offer about offensive weapons or weapons that kill civilians, but I've also heard your defense of Iron Dome. And I want to push you on this because I think a lot of the critique of you from pro-Palestine people and from Palestinians is that the position you're advocating basically amounts to, we need to make sure that the sniper is protected so that he can continue sniping.
Well, if we look, I appreciate the question, and I will answer it specifically. But if you look at all the things I've called for, I've said zero aid to Israel and supporting the Massey Amendment that does that. That's going to be a big vote coming up this week. I've said no military sales to Israel that are used to kill civilians. I've said no.
This is disappointing. I feel like Ro Khanna's language on this has shifted, but this does imply he would continue to support Iron Dome funding, or at the very least Iron Dome sales.
Military integration, and led the fight to repeal Section 224 and 219, which is Netanyahu's end run, where they would just co-produce the military. I've said we should call it apartheid and recognize the genocide. So these are on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like going from 1 to 7 or 8. And the debate is, okay, 9 or 10, do I, an arms embargo completely, which I have not supported, would say Israel can't even get or produce from anyone defensive, the Iron Dome. And I guess my view is, anyone should be able to protect civilian life, but that's not America supporting it. I do think, though, that there is something that the next administration could do within the first 100 days, instead of just saying, okay, we're going to talk abstractly about this long peace process.
How successful do you think a third-party Thomas Massey-Ro Khanna unity ticket would fare? Very badly. No one's winning outside of a Republican or Democrat ticket, not even close. America is farther away from a successful third party than it literally ever has been. The problem right now is that, Ro Khanna is equivocating. It seems like the closer he gets to announcing a presidential run, the more people are contacting him and telling him, hey, you better watch yourself. Because to get detained by settlers, then by the IDF illegally, and then to go on and be well, we still need to supply the Iron Dome. Listen, Ro Khanna has always been an opportunist, okay? I put no stake whatsoever in Ro Khanna's personal, consistency. I think that he is very good at media access. I think that he is very willing to talk. I think that he is by and large motivated by good priors, but opportunists remain opportunists, and the opportunities that they're being influenced by are not always the ones that we see publicly. There are behind the scenes ones as well. And that's my concern here,
Demand the arrest of Yonah Levy and extremist settlers within 100 days. Demand the destruction of every outpost within 100 days. Demand the destruction of illegal settlements within 100 days. Demand a justice for Palestinians and Palestinian people so that they stop getting terrorized within 100 days. That doesn't have to be some dialogue. That needs to be a directive from the American administration saying Israel must do this. And we need to be taking steps as we get towards a broader peace in that direction. I think that's one of the things that came out of this trip, the immediacy of the suffering of Palestinians.
I still don't think this is answering the question. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong here. What you're advocating for, we are talking about not just Netanyahu. Sanders always says Netanyahu and his extremist right-wing government. But if you look at public opinion polling, there is widespread support for open genocidal policies. In fact, Netanyahu is often criticized by his political opponents for not having finished the job in Gaza or in Lebanon or elsewhere. And I want to know why it is that you are stopping on this, because so much of what you're saying, it's one of the clearest recognitions of the issue that you could hear from an American politician. And yet you still are saying, but the sniper needs to have protection.
It's not the sniper. It's saying that we're not, just so there's no ambiguity on my position, which is also the position of Sanders or AOC or others, as I understand it. It is that we have zero military aid to Israel, that we have no military sales that are used to kill military.
I especially now, like the idea that this criticism does not extend towards funding of the Iron Dome, to me is absolutely insane. This is not like an edge argument or whatever. We all know that Israel enjoys the impunity given to it through Iron Dome sales. The Iron Dome doesn't protect civilians, it harms civilians in the same way that giving a bulletproof vest to a school shooter harms civilians. You're just giving them the ability to enact violence against civilians. Like, the civilians that are dying right now are not dying in Israel. Well, I mean, they are in like Gaza and the West Bank, which is part of Israel in the sense that they control it, like in a military sense, but they're dying in Lebanon, right? They're dying in Iran to a lesser extent, admittedly, since the bombings calmed down somewhat. But like Israel enjoys the impunity that we give it. We are harming civilians by giving them Iron Dome. This is not like some crazy edge case lefty argument. It's very, very obvious. I just don't. Yeah.
Weapons that are used to be killing civilians. So that's the drop.
I would argue Iron Dome is used to kill. I would argue Iron.
I just feel like people should not have been surprised. Masaigo, it's not about whether or not we're surprised. It's just like, this is a position. He's an opportunist. So like what his positions are going to vary. But like this is something on which I wouldn't say I'm a single issue voter, but I consider it like very, very, very highly. I think that what we're doing in the Middle East right now has like genuine world threatening consequences, and we need the highest possible level of opposition to it. Like far beyond, frankly, merely restricting Iron Dome rearmament to them. But like, it's whether or not it's surprising is immaterial to me. Like, you know,
Iron Dome is used to kill civilians because it allows the Israelis to have this American backing to operate with impunity by openly saying that I support this military technology for Israel. What you're saying is that when Israel attacks other countries who have a right to fight back, that my position is that sniper, I wish he wasn't doing the sniping, but that sniper has a right to have the United States defending their sniping.
But I don't think that that's the case if we're stopping all military aid and we're stopping giving them the weapons to kill others, and we're stopping protecting them at the UN, and we're demanding the actions in terms of justice. I don't think that their policies, whether it's Netanyahu or another Israeli government.
Would you say this about apartheid South Africa? I've heard you talk about it.
Because I think, because I do think...
Give me another example where you say it's okay to continue any level of support for an openly genocidal society that has mass murdered 80,000 people, more than 300 media workers, has invaded Lebanon, has bombed Iran, and you're saying, oh, but we need to protect civilians. This isn't about protecting civilians.
Invaded Syria too. I'm not letting them off the hook for that. I still can't believe the fucking balls on these guys, you know? That right after the Syrian civil war, when Assad was deposed, they were just like, yeah, we're just going to take this mountain. We're just like, why? I don't know. We're going to bomb Damascus. Why? I don't know. Like no explanation was given. Seriously, they were just like, well, we can. They're fucking discombobulated. Got to go in for the kidney shot, you know?
This threat to their civilians is their policy. And so I don't understand why
Jeremy seems smart. Jeremy Scahill has been he's been doing work for decades, big like anti-war on terror, anti-Zionist. Like he's been very consistently aligned. Unfortunately, like my opinion of people associated with Dropsite News is lower right now because I'm still fucking mad at them for like Ryan Grimm and what their media guy was saying about the Graham Plattner allegations. Like, I just think that was really, really, really bad. But in fairness, I don't actually know what Jeremy Scahill's positions are on that. I haven't heard him speak in it. It's possible his positions are bad and he also did rape apologia. I don't know. I don't. I have not looked at it.
You have even one qualified shred of support for a sniper mass murderer masquerading as the only democracy in the Middle East.
Well, but I'm not saying that the United States should be supporting the funding for Iron Dome, just so we're clear. I'm saying that we shouldn't be restricting Israel from being able to get the Iron Dome or be able to develop the Iron Dome technology. Well,
I stop there. Everything else you're saying makes so much sense. Why do you stop there? It feels to me like
Scahill supported Tulsi Gabbard for DNI. Okay, then he's probably a campus too. Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard would be a shock to the U.S. intelligence system. Okay. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay. So, yeah, campus bent. He's been... This is like a common Achilles heel for people like this. He has been doing good work for decades and decades, but, like, I really do think that the war on terror caused, like, permanent brain damage in a lot of lefties from that era, where they are, like, really hardline campused against American power, and it makes them fall for a bunch of obvious traps. Like, Chomsky... So, obviously, Chomsky's a piece of shit. Most of Chomsky's political prescriptions are good, obviously, apart from his pro-Epstein positions. But, like, it has also led him down some stupid fucking, you know, Chomsky braves where angels dare not tread. Pol Pot shit. So yeah, it's a common Achilles heel. I'm trying to like broaden my thoughts on this a little bit because I really don't think that being a bit of a retard about like Assad undoes decades of good coverage on American imperial power. It's just worth keeping in mind, you know? You're not going to find... Listen, okay? All I'm going to say is there's only one me. Everyone else is a compromise, all right? I say about like a legendary reporter who's worked for decades and has like a massive fucking Wikipedia article on all the stuff he's done. But like, I don't expect to agree with everyone and everything. You should still be critical of their bad positions. In this case, obviously, in the context of this conversation, Jeremy Scahill is correct, right?
You're trying to have it both ways on this issue. So you can say, well, I actually support, defending the Israeli civilians. You're not defending Israeli civilians with that policy. You're defending the sniper's ability to keep killing because it won't face the ultimate accountability, which is a total embargo on all support for an apartheid state.
Yeah, I don't think you have to put at risk. You would agree, there are innocent civilians in Israel, right? Including...
If you take away all the Iron Dome missiles, though, wouldn't that give Iran and other neighbors free reign to shoot all their missiles? Yes. Do you have a follow-up? We should not sell weapons or rearm the defensive capabilities of nations currently committing like genocides or invading neighboring countries. In the same way, I don't think we should sell weapons to Russia either, even if they're like defensive. I don't think we should sell like anti-air missiles to Russia.
20% being Arab Israelis. I mean, I just don't think that you have to put their lives at risk to achieve the ends of stopping the apartheid, stopping the occupation.
Israel puts their lives at risk by waging genocidal wars with the support of a significant portion of its population, and by enabling them by saying, well, the sniper still needs to have his cover. Or well, I stop at this thing. What you're saying is that the accountability then doesn't lie on American policy toward Israel. It's sort of something abstract.
Maybe Israel would feel a lot less comfortable doing all the shit that it does if they paid the consequences for it and didn't have a military that was heavily subsidized by the American arms industry, you know? Maybe their civilians would be a little bit less bloodthirsty. You know, I have to say the Germans got a lot less bloodthirsty when they realized we could bomb them. When the motherfuckers in Dresden, they were like, I thought we were the only ones. What the fuck? I'm burning. I thought only they would burn. Oh, come on. Grow up. Fucking child logic. I'm youch. Yeah. I don't know. Like the civilians get more bloodthirsty the more impunity they get to act with. I feel like maybe Israelis would pursue a slightly less omnicidal foreign policy if it wasn't for the fact that, like, we spend $50 billion for every Israeli civilian lost to protect them. That's not the exact number. It's not even close to the exact number. I made it up, but you know what I mean. Meanwhile, in Japan, the leaders were like, it do be like this. It do be like that, Mr. Emperor. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I just don't think that like Israel, I don't think modern governments and modern societies are willing to accept the like mutual bloodshed that comes with being the kind of country Israel wants to be. The only reason Russia gets away with it is because they have no civil society at all. But Israel is, albeit a very flawed and corrupt, but still a democracy. Like, there is a relationship between the dissatisfaction of the people and the whims of the government. If the people in Israel were like, ooh, my tummy hurts, maybe we shouldn't indefinitely invade Lebanon or, like, claim Greater Israel, then maybe they would stop, you know? But as long as the people of Israel want war and death, they're going to get it because they're going to elect leaders that are going to do it, you know? It's bad. It's very, very bad.
Well, Israeli civilians could die. Israeli civilians are dying in these attacks because of the apartheid. You know, Palestinians have a right to kill Israeli soldiers, Congressman? On October 7th, when they attacked the military bases in the Gaza envelope, did the Qassam brigades and Surah al-Quds have a right to kill Israeli soldiers? Yes or no?
Who
On
was
October 7th, did Palestinians have a right to attack Israeli military bases in the Gaza envelope? Yes or no?
This really gets down to it because, like, obviously, and I don't defend Hamas attacking the like music festival or whatever, the civilians, though obviously we know a lot of the people who died were IDF, and the IDF also killed a lot of Israelis too. We don't need to equivocate. Like, in general, civilian targeting is bad, even if it's produced by the consequences of like the imperial nation's behavior. But like, what about like a military base? The IDF is explicitly like an institution that has participated in the slaughter and occupation and apartheid of Palestinians. The IDF does not enjoy the protection, the moral protection that civilians enjoy.
I mean, I think October 7th attack was a terrorist attack, so I don't
Was it a terrorist attack when the first targets that were hit on the morning of October 7th were multiple military bases? Did Palestinian forces have a right to attack those military bases?
I am not for violence again in any way. I mean, I am for making sure that we end the occupation.
They have a right to do it, Congressman. Do they have a right to attack Israeli soldiers?
No, I'm not going to say that Hamas had a right to attack Israeli soldiers or kill Israelis. Like, I don't think that advances peace or advances Palestinian statehood.
Does Israel have a right to drop a single bomb in Gaza in response to October 7th?
I believe Israel had the right to get people who killed.
Oh, yeah, this is disqualifying to me. This is a very direct one-to-one. So Hamas does not have a moral right to kill IDF soldiers, but IDF soldiers have a right to drop bombs on Gaza. This is like a one-to-one. This is really, like, leaving aside the civilians who were killed on October 7th, this is a very straightforward equivocacy. Yeah, no. I understand this is a difficult position to put anyone in. Like, even among Democrats, this is a tough one, but unfortunately, we're in exceptional times. Like, the idea, this is exactly the kind of, like, hand-waving that leads to infinite U.S. deference, and, like, we need a very, very, very strong will on this one. Yeah, no, I don't. It's not just about arms sales, it's about, like, the moral license. You know what I mean? If you think it was morally wrong for Hamas to attack the IDF, like IDF bases on October 7th, I disagree with you. I think you could supply plenty of legitimate arguments for that. But like, the consistent position then would be, I believe it was totally wrong for Israel to respond militarily in any way after October 7th. But if you don't hold that position, if you think Israel has some unique license to kill, but the Palestinians don't, then that's just like that's not workable. It kind of shows that a lot of the shit that he's been saying following his trip to Israel is insincere. It's the opportunist thing, right? Like, you can talk up a big game about how disgusting it is that settlers get to do whatever they want, but you don't seem to actually believe that. Like, you seem to think that Israel does enjoy some kind of unique moral license to kill that the Palestinians don't. And if you were consistent on this, AOC couldn't answer this question either. This direct question is a tough one. I acknowledge that. But in fairness, AOC says she supports an arms embargo on Israel, including not selling Iron Dome rearmaments. Like, no arms sales to Israel whatsoever.
Congresswoman, would you support an arms embargo? I know that you support stopping sending offensive and defensive military aid to Israel. Would you support an embargo?
I consider both of those things to be the same.
Stopping the sale of arms to Israel, stopping other countries from selling to them.
Other countries, I don't know where we have jurisdiction over, but I think in terms of us, I do not support any transfer of weapon.
Sale or aid.
I think
it would be suicide to answer this question correctly. Yes, I think so. Listen, if he couldn't say yes to Hamas killing IDF soldiers, then he had to say no to Israel killing Palestinians. That would have been a consistent answer. I understand that you can't, like, a presidential run can't be built off of like lay epic campus posting or whatever, but he should have said, like, I abhor violence in all of its forms. I wish that I think it was unjustifiable for October 7th to have been committed even against IDF bases, but the IDF's response to Gaza was also unacceptable. If he had said that, that would have been a consistent position. The inconsistency is very revealing. And by the way, I think politically he could have gotten away with that. Like, think of how much support for Israel has dropped over the past couple of years. I think you could 100% hold your feet on that. You could just flatly say, like, yeah, I think both responses were untenable. Now, that might be a bit of a pie in the sky opinion because, like, wow, so you think violence is bad? You wish no one did violence? Like, okay, great. In the same way, it's not very helpful to say, well, I wish Russia never invaded Ukraine, but I also wish Ukraine didn't have to bomb Crimea or whatever. Like, I understand it's not very helpful, but it is a radical position in today's political environment to acknowledge that Israelis and Palestinians are equally human. No matter how much, like, virtue signaling politicians engage in, where they're so concerned about the suffering of Palestinians, the policies we engage in and the implicit, like, moral preferentialism that we show indicates we very obviously think that Palestinian lives are not worth Israeli lives, which is why Israel can kill God knows how many, you know, in my opinion, hundreds of thousands, but at the very least 80,000 Palestinians, and that's just like, you know. But aren't both their answers the same? They both want to end the arms sale. Equivocating, the inconsistency Ro Khanna is expressing here is bad and indefensible. He thinks that Israel has a moral license to kill, Palestinians do not. Also, he wants to sell Iron Dome weapons, Iron Dome defense rearmament to Israel. Those are not the same. It's different policy and different ethics.
Well, here's one thing that I will say, like, the actual ways that these things work is that they have to go. So anything that I have a vote for, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
Anything I have a vote for, I would not authorize that transfer. And I haven't, you know, I never have. I've never voted.
You voted for Iron Dome sales.
To my knowledge, I don't believe I've ever voted for SFOPs. I've never voted for the military.
The Iron Dome's the military. That is also the military.
NDAA budget. So in terms of my vote and what I have control over, I always vote no on weapons transfers.
Would you consider taking a trip like the one that Congressman Khanna took to the West Bank?
Oh, of course. You know, I think
she voted present? Okay, fine. She voted present.
Many years ago, Netanyahu prevented Congresswoman Tlaib and Omar from entering, and so I had stated...
Want to cover the insane DoD post? No, I want to talk about the thing I'm talking about right now. Thank you.
Years ago, that as long as they were opposing entry to them, but I certainly would be open to visiting and would be happy to. You know, I've never taken an APAC funded trip, and I don't take...
Seems fun though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, but you know, I've never taken like those kinds of funded trips.
Yeah.
But which is probably another reason why I haven't gone. But in terms of visiting, I would be more than happy to.
You think there needs to be action taken after they detained him, especially the IDF playing a role in taking this?
Anyway, so there is a difference between their positions, though I don't know what AOC would ask, or sorry, what she would respond with if she was asked, like, the questions Ro Khanna is being asked here.
The civilians, but not in the way they went about it, which I've said is genocide.
But the Palestinians don't have a right to attack the very military bases that are running the killing operations on October 6th, 2023, or October 5th, 2023. It's a double standard. You're saying there are ways that Israel should be able to kill Palestinians, but there is never a condition under which Palestinians can attack armed, uniformed soldiers of a force that is still considered an occupying force under international law. I don't make it make sense.
Another good, like, moral equivacy here is, do you think that Palestinians in the West Bank have a right to defend themselves against settlers? So the settlers are literally, like, slaughtering them, no legal opposition, raping them, burning down their villages. They're like animals. They can do whatever they want. Do you think Palestinians have a right to defend themselves with violence against those settlers? There is an obvious correct answer to this. Just as Black Americans in the South had a right to defend themselves against the Ku Klux Klan, very straightforward. This is like an obvious one-to-one, like, very easy. Now, the closest, like, middle ground answer you could give is that realistically, defending yourself against the settlers is just going to, like, increase the violence against you. And that is true. realistically, there's nothing that people in the West Bank can do to stop the overwhelming tide of violence, both state and stochastic, against them. But we're talking morally. Like, do you think they have a moral right? Not do you think the consequences of it would be good? And you can argue, well, consequentially, that's an overlap, blah, 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 which I acknowledge. But I still think the point of the question is clear, and you could carve out the exact language as you wanted to. And I have a feeling that Ro Khanna would say no. I have a feeling Ro Khanna would say he does not support them defending themselves against that violence, which I mean is a morally untenable position. Like nobody today would be like, well, Black Americans should have just let the Klan lynch them. Like that would not be a defensible position.
To me, how those
I
two
come
things
from
are
a
not
tradition
total
of
I think that's a bad allegory comparing it to the Klan. The Klan killed far fewer people than Israel has. The settlers in the West Bank do far more than the Klan ever has. Genuinely. Like the Klan enjoys a mythological reputation in America for its violence and terror, but they are just a pale shadow of what the settlers in the West Bank do and have done. The degree of legal impunity they have, the degree to which the state sanctions their violence, it's incomparable.
King and Gandhi. My grandfather was in jail for.
I'm aware of your family history. Do you think King would say, "Well, there's certain they can attack the Viet Cong, but I don't want them to kill."
I don't think anyone. I don't know what Gandhi would say. I don't think my grandfather would say that the Palestinians should have armed resistance to Israeli occupation. I think they would argue for a much more nonviolent approach. But America, I think, in ending aid, in ending military sales, in not being.
Iron Dome is military sales. It doesn't matter how much you dress it up. The Iron Dome is a military tool used by the military, rearmed with military munitions. They're not civilian. We're not doing civilian sales of Iron Dome interceptor missiles.
Being a defender of Israel in the UN, just vetoing resolutions against Israel would make tremendous progress. I mean, maybe we're on a scale of 1 to 10, and you're at a 10, and I'm saying let's go to a 6, 7, 8. I don't know where that would be. And right now, America's at a 1.
Well, we're at a 10 because of a genocide that was enabled, supported, armed, and funded by the United States. And I am baffled as to how you can say that Israel had a right to drop a single bomb on Gaza in response to October 7th, but Palestinians, according to you, have no right whatsoever to ever kill an Israeli occupation.
Palestinians have right to justice, which is in the case of.
Do they have a right to armed resistance against Israeli occupation soldiers in uniform? Do they ever have a right?
I mean, not a pale shadow. They used to string black men up, chop their genitals off. Dog, I know what the Ku Klux Klan did. I'm familiar with their history in the U.S. Are you familiar with what settlers do in the West Bank? Genuinely, like, are you? The impunity that they enjoy is basically unparalleled.
To kill an Israeli soldier.
I think if it's a self-defense, if they feel like there's an illegal attack on them by a violent settler or by an Israeli soldier, and that's illegal, in a school or on a civilian, and then of course they should have justice.
But
what do you mean justice? Like what? Like a legal court? The problem is that the courts in Israel don't prosecute settlers. What do you mean by that? Okay, everyone agrees that people should have justice. It's like tautological, basically. Like justice is what people should have, right? So people should have what do you mean by that? It feels like he was trying to avoid distinguishing between legal defense and self-defense, you know?
The entire thing is illegal, Representative Khanna. The entire occupation of Gaza, the managing their diet, the mowing the lawn, the constant killing of them. The perspective of many Palestinians is that they're being collectively punished and they're fighting for their very existence, and that the bases that surround Gaza were the primary murderers on a military level of the population of Gaza. So what I'm understanding, whether it's Hamas and Islamic Jihad or it's independent Palestinians, how is it that you can stand here and in any way justify the Israelis dropping bombs on Gaza, but never find a way in which it's justifiable for Palestinians to kill an armed soldier of a force that is under international law an occupation force? I don't understand it.
Why? Because I
consider this position.
Well, I will look at it, but I don't think that the solution in that area is to encourage
but you're afraid of
violent
being called pro-Hamas. That's what this boils down to. Because I bet if we were talking off the record privately and I said this to you, you would acknowledge that people around the world have a right to resist.
I'd rather advance the discourse than die on this dumb hill. Nuts. I don't think it's a dumb hill. Like, the moral logic that he's invoking here dehumanizes Palestinians. He is providing moral license for Israeli slaughter, but not for Palestinian self-defense. And I think that's unacceptable. The problem is that we're in a unique and exceptional moment in politics right now. We don't have the ability to like slowly equivocate our way into a centrist position. We need bold action here. Detaching our political representation from the incentive structure that, among other things, causes them to defend Israel no matter how bad the shit Israel does is paramount. It's absolutely essential. I feel like without these big paradigm shifts, we'd be fucked anyway. I feel like you could say that about Bernie Sanders and Medicare for All. Oh, Medicare for All is not going to happen. Even if it could happen logistically, it's not politically viable. Like, why waste time arguing this? Because, like, it has to. Because if we can't take those big steps, then we never will. And if we never will, then that's it. Like, that's like the path we're on is untenable, you know? I acknowledge that they're putting Ro Khanna through a tough set of questions, but let's be clear here, okay? Ro Khanna is not just some guy. He spends like 5 hours of every day talking with media. He might be the most media accessible congressman. He's nonstop talking with media. He is well trained. These are questions he should have robust answers to. Like, to whatever standard I hold myself, my ability to answer questions on the fly, his ability should be 20 times as great. Like, he should be way, like, the standard to which we hold him should be very high, because we're talking about a person who has had ample opportunity to express and develop his opinions. So for him to, like, literally sentence to sentence be like, the Palestinians had no right to kill IDF soldiers, but the IDF had a right to drop bombs in Gaza, this to me is like not workable. What do you think his motive is? I mean, he's an opportunist. He does not want to stake his position out on like being accused of being pro-Hamas. But remember, much in the same way that the Trump administration will accuse all of us of being terrorists merely for believing in the First Amendment, the Zionists will call you pro-Hamas no matter what you do. Like, they call everyone pro-Hamas. It's what they do. So, you know, Republicans were calling Biden pro-Hamas for not being more openly bloodthirsty right after October 7th. It's coming for all of us. We need a political leader who can plant their feet in the sand and not like cower in the face of those accusations. It is not pro-Hamas to believe that Israelis and Palestinians have equal rights to self-defense. It's just not, you know? I agree these are tough questions, but he should be navigating them better.
Resistance by all means necessary.
I've always been for peaceful resistance. You know,
but how is peaceful resistance saying the Israelis?
You know, I mean, just
bomb?
like it's under segregation.
He said Israel had a right to drop bombs in Gaza. He's already lost his right to do this, like, this unwavering pacifist stance.
I wouldn't have said that go kill people who are engaged in segregation against you. I mean, I'm much more Dr. King than Malcolm X. I mean, are you much
more slave rebellions were justified against people that were raping, hanging, murdering Africans who had been kidnapped? I mean, I'm sorry. I spend most of my day and night talking with Palestinians, working with Palestinians. My colleague Hossam Shabat was assassinated by the Israelis,
most of the Palestinians I met,
use force.
Most of the Palestinians I met, and maybe a few days, are not talking about the kind of armed resistance that you are. They just want to live their lives in dignity and peace and not have the Israeli settlers oppress them.
But you're a member of the United States Congress who is justifying, albeit you've been very critical of Israel's war against Gaza, but you seem to be drawing a line that says that there are some cases in which Israel is just...
It's kind of crazy how Dems just spit in the history of civil rights figures. Yeah, I really resent the implication that Martin Luther King Jr. would have opposed slave rebellions. Like, the idea that, like, again, like, they really treat him like, and they treat him like a Gandhi figure, but also Gandhi was not... Like, the history of pacifism is not a history of idiots. Pacifists engage in principled nonviolence, but they're not fucking stupid. Like, the pacifist, it's not like the disciplined pacifist position back in, like, 1941 was for Jews in Warsaw to just, like, wait their turn or whatever. Like, I'm like, no, yeah, this is very disappointing. I've always known him to be an opportunist, but, like, I expected him to better read the winds on this. Or I guess to just allow his winds to blow more in my direction.
Justified to attack Palestinians, but only those responsible for October 7th. But you can't find a shred of justification for any Palestinian to attack the very armed forces operating under a nation state flag that is backed by the United States.
I think the closer analogy should be made the Indians had a right to slaughter Custer and his men. You could make a lot of direct comparisons to our treatment of the natives, because we did to the natives what Israel's done to the Palestinians. We killed a lot of them, and then we sent out, through westward expansion, through homesteading, we sent out settlers into the West who we deliberately placed in lands that were tribal lands. And then we had civilians there. So we're like, oh, better send the cavalry in, because like now we have to protect our civilians against the marauding hordes of, you know, the Indians or whatever. It's pretty one-to-one. We did the same thing to them. We send out civilians who are like the front wall, and then we make the land productive. They farm. And then we're like, well, we have to defend our boys. We can't leave our boys out there to get scalped by the Redskins or whatever. So then we fucking send, you know, Custer out there, and we kill a lot of them. And then we force them back, and we force them back, and we force them back. Custer was nuts. Yes, Custer was fucking crazy. That is true. Fake peace treaties in between, which Israel also loves to do. We love a bunch of like disingenuous bad faith peace treaties that we immediately invalidate with our own behavior, because they were only ever like a time buying mechanism. Yeah, it's pretty one-to-one. That's why we say like Israel is just a modern settler colonial project. Israel would be ethically unexceptional in its treatment of Palestinians 200 years ago. Today, they are exceptional. 200 years ago, not to say it would have been defensible. It wouldn't have been. It just would have been a lot more common.
And you're saying that there is no condition under which a Palestinian has a right to kill soldiers who are posted at military bases, enforcing by murder and forced starvation and deprivation an illegal occupation of Gaza. That's what doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how you reconcile those two positions.
Because I think that the armed resistance is only going to be ineffective given the power differentials.
You have already defended Israel dropping bombs in Gaza. This argument doesn't work anymore. You already messed up. These arguments would work if you had said Israel had no right to bomb Gaza after what happened. That if you could keep this position had you said that, but you didn't. You have already given up the game.
Similar to what Gandhi thought in terms of how he took on the British Empire, and that having a moral force of civil resistance and appealing to the world's conscience is going to be much better chance of getting dignity and peace.
2019, the Palestinians organized the Great March of Return, which was a mass nonviolent mobilization at the gates of the concentration camp walls and fence in Gaza. And you know what Israeli soldiers did, Representative Khanna? They had a competition to who could shoot the most kneecaps of Palestinians.
Well, I think that
I were backed by Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas. So there's a track record and there's a context. You're talking about tactical issues. The Palestinians have tried that. The Palestinians did.
I think that I think opinion is
down.
I think opinion is shifting now in America.
Opinion is shifting now because Israel has been that bad. What the Palestinians did during the Great March of Return did not move the needle that much because of an overwhelming onslaught of pro-Israeli propaganda that the world was subjected to. Because Israel is just an extension of Western hegemony in the Middle East. Like if you take a look at support for Israel versus Palestinians, the needle kept pretty steady basically up until October 7th, with some mild variance. I think the Great March of Return maybe contributed to like a single-digit shift in the position of Democrats. I don't think it did much for Republicans. But like the reason the opinions have shifted lately is because Israel overstepped, and now we can all see how bad they are. Well, some of us were early on that one. I always knew, thank you. But more people have caught up to it. It's like these are really bad arguments.
Where those kind of approaches would get a better reception in the United States.
Okay, yeah. Very disappointing. I can't support Roe if he's going to be this transparently cynical in his efforts to not upset the people who are going to call him pro-Hamas anyway. He did this on a San stream too.
Yeah. So I want to get a little bit of clarity here because you brought up the idea of being comfortable with sanctions, especially sanctions on any institution, financial or otherwise, that's touching the West Bank. But are you comfortable with like targeted sanctions of that sort? I want to get like full clarity on it. And also, are you comfortable with advancing a demand for an arms embargo? Or is that too pie in the sky for you?
Well, I would say I'm comfortable with sanctions on government officials and sanctions on anyone, any of the financial institutions, and certainly sanctions which are involved in the occupation in the West Bank. And I would look at the construction of the finance, the government officials that are involved there. And of course, if there are people to be held criminally accountable.
How's Hassan's suit looking? Hassan has been dressing much better lately in terms of like sartorial stuff. Like his suits have gotten better. That is for sure. Yeah. It's kind of hard to tell unless he's standing up, though, because one of the big tests, especially for an atypical body like his, is how it settles when you're standing up straight. It's harder to get suits that fit properly the more you deviate from a traditional body type, and Hassan's shoulders are wide enough that his does. So it would, I'd have to see him standing up. I do like the color choices, though.
On sanction based on what happened in Gaza. That needs to happen once that goes through the ICJ and ICC. On the way I frame it, similar to Sanders and others, is no military sales under our Leahy law. And the arms embargo in candor would go further. It would that would mean, I suppose, as you would define it, that you would stop Israel even from getting defensive weapons, even not from us, but if they just want to get Iron Dome or things, that to me is probably too far. I mean, I'm all for defending and saving human life, so I have framed it the way Sanders.
No, I'm sorry. This all rings so hollow to me. It makes his trip to the West Bank look so insincere as well. To see like the bombed out ruins of the West Bank and then to go home and be like, well, like Gandhi and MLK Jr., I think all violence is bad, except for when Israel bombs Gaza after October 7th. This just does not ring with me at all. It's disqualifying to me. Again, I've always understood him to be an opportunist, but like it tells you what incentives he is bound by. And he's not shifted on this one, not enough for me. Maybe he'll change his mind in the future, but yeah. It does show in moments like this, yeah.
Others have no military sales in terms of things that could kill civilians, which is weird.
But you would not be in favor of a similar ease of access to defensive weapons for the Palestinians, right? As far as like if Palestinians were to get arms from...
Palestinian state, no. I mean, I think if a Palestinian state wanted to have Iron Dome, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, but that's not the real world. Like, again, it's all great. That's not happening. There is no Palestinian state. There is in the sense of like occupied Palestine, but there's not a separate legal entity, the Palestinian state versus the Israeli state. This is like I believe in self-defense for both groups. Oh, which one's actually buying it from us? Well, Israel, of course, And these motherfuckers are lying. Like, if there was a second state and Palestine was at war with Israel and Palestine asked America for the right to buy, like, munitions, you fucking know we wouldn't give it to them. Come on. like, I don't buy it. You're really telling me that if Tel Aviv is firing at, Gaza and Gaza's firing at Tel Aviv and the Palestinian representatives come to America and they're like, hey, can we buy some Iron Dome supplies so we can defend ourselves against Israeli missiles? Like, the idea that we would sell to them is ludicrous, It's not happening. What's stopping these guys from straight up lying to get votes? I mean, there isn't. Because the positions politicians publicly take should be seen as advocacy for those positions. The more politicians take a position, the more popular it becomes. There's a relationship between disingenuous advocacy for a position and the popularity of that position. Look at how Republicans insincerely called for the release of the Epstein files for years and years, and then when they finally found themselves in a position to do so, they were like, wait, hold up, fuck, wait, stop. But then it happened anyway. Advocacy for a position, even if you're lying to win over the votes of stupid people, still pushes for support of that position. In the case of the Epstein files, it backfired tremendously against the Trump administration. What he's doing right now is trying to thread the needle where he's feigning more support for Palestinians, but not in a way that angers his J Street donors. But I want him to anger his J Street donors. What's J Street? AIPAC Light. I thought J Street was worse than AIPAC? Incorrect. AIPAC is much more openly bloodthirsty, though even they've had to moderate their positions somewhat because of how much the Overton window shifted. Does this put Khanna below Vance for you? I'll do the math later. Khanna would still be a lot better than Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris.